Good evening, hello and welcome. You're watching Budget Buzz here on CNN News 18 with me, Poonam Burde. As the world faces recessionary fears and downgrade revised growth projections, India's economy remains a bright spot. The World Bank just recently said that India's GDP will grow at 6.9% in this financial year and will remain one of the fastest growing major economies. Experts have full confidence that despite the global headwinds, India's economy will sail through fairly smoothly. Now, India continues to be business friendly by attracting investments, by enabling capital investments, growing the startup ecosystem, even offering PLI schemes for several of these sectors, among many other initiatives that have been taken by the central government to keep the morale up both at an individual level and at the industry level. But will Budget 2023 serve as a stimulus for helping India to become the fastest growing economy, to stay the fastest growing economy? It's not just about fiscal prudence this time around. This budget is the last full-fledged budget Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will present for this government's tenure. Add to that the 9 states that go to elections this year, in most of which the ruling BJP is the incumbent government. Many would say that this brings with it a tacit need to go the popular way. But can India afford a populist budget this time around? More disposable income in the hands of the public, job creation, spurring economic growth are just some of the things that are the need of the hour, is what many are suggesting. But before we get into that, let me get you some facts as far as where India stands currently. And this is what several agencies around the world have said. As per the World Bank, India is the 5th largest economy in market terms. In PPP terms, it's the 3rd largest economy as far as the World Bank is concerned. The World Bank has also gone on to say that the GDP is going to be at $3.7 trillion to cross $30 trillion by 2048. 10 times growth has been projected in the next 26 years by Ernst & Young. 7% projected growth amid global downturn is what Fitch Ratings has also said. Remember, US, UK, Europe are all staring at recession. Whether it happens or not, how big is the impact there, we don't know. But India is going to sail smoothly is what many of these agencies believe. But the challenges remain. The after effects of the pandemic, the repercussions of the Russia-Ukraine war and global inflation will pose some hurdles for our growth trajectory. And here are 5 reasons why the government must keep in mind when they present the budget on the 1st of February. There are at least 5 challenges that we see that the government will have to look at when that budget is presented. Arresting inflation that's above the RBI's tolerance level. It has been pretty much above the level all of 2022. Checking the declining value of the rupee versus the dollar. Remember, the rupee has gone down by several notches in the last year against the dollar. Promoting private investment for growth is also extremely crucial, given that we are seeing several companies lay off people across the country, across the world. Another challenge that the finance minister faces is job creation, because we have seen COVID-induced unemployment across the country. We've seen pay cuts that have been meted out to several people at the least. So these are many of the challenges that the country faces, that the centre needs to look at when Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presents the budget on the 1st of February. Joining me on this broadcast is Chairperson of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Finance, Jayant Sinha, and he will help us break down what exactly is the demand and what exactly is the expectation and what we could expect. Jayant Sinha, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. Now, we are leading up to the budget. All eyes are on Nirmala Sitharaman. What kind of sops, perhaps, especially for the Aam Aadmi, are in the offing? But as the chair of the Parliamentary Committee on Finance, what are your expectations or what are your recommendations, so to say, to the government, to the Finance Minister?
Thank you very much for having me on your show this evening. We have, over the last few years, gone from being one of the fragile 5 countries, which is where the UPA left us, to today being a shining star and a rare bright spot in the global economy. So first, I want to compliment the Honorable Prime Minister and the Honorable Finance Minister for their excellent policies and their very prudent and steadfast handling of the economy, so that we are now very, very well positioned going into this new fiscal year. And we are obviously looking forward to this budget with a lot of anticipation that we will continue to make this very steady and very strong progress on all economic dimensions. What the Honorable Prime Minister and the Honorable Finance Minister have done over the last few years is to establish a very steady course for the economy. And they've done that by following 5 important priorities. And I think these will be the 5 priorities which will continue to be followed in this budget as well. So the number one priority is to ensure that we have overall macroeconomic stability, which means that all of our macroeconomic parameters, the fiscal deficit, inflation, growth rate, current account deficit, overall debt to GDP, all these macroeconomic parameters are well managed and they're very stable. As you can see across our South Asian neighborhood, many other of our neighbors have not been able to maintain this macroeconomic stability. And so when they've been hit by shocks or by things that are unexpected, that has really created lots of problems for them. On the other hand, we've gone through, once in a century situation with COVID and come out of it with a really outstanding sort of recovery. So that tells you that the macroeconomic stability path that we followed has worked very well for us. So that's the number one priority. The number two priority is continued support for vulnerable populations. And this includes for people with respect to food grains, which is what we've done with the Garib Kalyan Yojana and going forward with the Food Security Act. It'll also, of course, mean continued support for fertilizer subsidies for people so that they can get into a Pakka house. And continue to support rural populations around the country. So support of vulnerable populations is a second priority. Third priority is to strengthen capital expenditure, particularly in critical infrastructure areas such as roads, highways, airports, and so on. And we've done that exceedingly well, and we've been able to put lots and lots of infrastructure in the ground, which is also, through its multiplier effect, helped the economy a great deal. Number 4, of course, is to continue to be able to provide ease of doing business, reduce the corporate tax rate so it's at a competitive level, eliminate obsolete laws, eliminate red tape. So there's tremendous ease of doing business, and that attracts investment, then that attracts obviously private sector capex. So that's priority number 4, and we've seen that consistently. And priority number 5 is to invest in the important areas of the economy that will drive us going forward. And here, of course, whether it is climate change and the green economy, which we've done through the PLI schemes for solar panels, for battery chemistry, that's where we made some big investments. In electronics through smartphones and semiconductors, that's where we made big investments. We made big investments also in important manufacturing sectors like in textiles and food processing. So positioning the economy through the PLI scheme so that it is continues to grow, continues to be globally competitive. So these are the 5 consistent priorities that the Honorable Prime Minister and the Honorable Finance Minister have pursued over the last few years. And I think they'll continue to pursue it. Now, all that being said, we are, of course, in the final stretch as far as the political cycle is concerned. And I think what we are going to see is obviously some interesting and attractive schemes that will be very, very popular. So in 2018, for example, we introduced the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi, which has been very, very successful in providing support to farmers. So I think the Honorable Prime Minister and the Honorable Finance Minister will also introduce some schemes that will become very popular in this budget as well.
Right, and I'm glad you bring that up because that's exactly what I was going to ask you, Jayant Sinha, that it is the last year, the last full-fledged budget that this government would present before the general elections next year. There are also 9 states that go to elections, and like you said, this is the final stretch. A lot of vulnerable sections need to be looked at. Do you think we're going to see a populist budget from the Finance Minister?
So the budget is not intended to be either populist or pragmatic. It's intended to be a budget that's well balanced, that takes into account all the different priorities and all the different pressures that any government faces. And even as we put these budgets together, we are always focused on making sure that the needs of all of Bharat, all of India are met, not just the states that are going into the election, because there are elections all the time in India. So the budgets that have always been presented by our government have been prudent, balanced, thoughtful budgets that position India strongly. And that's why we are confident that, we will get close to 7% growth or even more this fiscal year that's ending. And going forward, we will continue to grow at between 6 to 7%, which is remarkable for a $3 trillion economy. And given the global situation that we face right now. So the budgets are balanced budgets. They're budgets that are always thoughtful about the future and follow pragmatic and well-articulated policies.
Sure. And because you said, the kind of situation that we are dealing with globally, I would also like to point out that, several countries, several developed economies are facing recession-like fears. We're seeing several multinational companies that have either started laying off people or they intend to do so in the near future. Even in India, as far as unemployment is concerned, the rate is pretty high. It's at about a 16-month high as per the CMI data in December that has gone by. Now, as far as job creation is concerned, this budget is going to be crucial. How do you think the finance minister will do that?
So job creation is always a very, very high priority for any finance minister, and particularly for our government. Job creation has been a top priority all the time. And the policies that I was talking about earlier, such as the PLI scheme, is creating crores of jobs because it's really spurring manufacturing. We were not producing any smartphones in India earlier. Now we are producing 20 crore smartphones a year. We are exporting smartphones, and that has created lakhs and lakhs of jobs as an example. The infrastructure investments that are going into highways and airports and ports, into railways, these are creating lakhs of jobs as well, not just directly in the National Highway Authority, but indirectly in terms of the construction companies that are involved, the cement companies that are involved, the steel companies that are involved. So all of these become very big employment generators because we are pursuing manufacturing, we are pursuing infrastructure investments, and these, of course, help in creating jobs. In addition, ease of doing business is very, very important because that ensures that private sector capex remains strong, remains robust. And investment is what creates jobs, because that's when you build the factories, you create new productive assets, and you make India much more competitive globally. So for all of those reasons, we have pursued these policies that are directly job creating policies for India and across all the different states.
But there are lots of sectors that are pinning their hopes on the finance minister, particularly the healthcare sector, because we've seen the kind of strain that the sector has faced over the last 2 to 3 years, right after COVID hit the country. Now, India allocates only about 2% of its GDP to the sector, and many are hoping that this is the budget where that limit is increased. Your thoughts on that?
Healthcare is a very, very fast-growing part of our economy, and it is a very big job-creating part of the economy as well. As India gets more affluent, as Indians start to demand even better world-class medical services, we are seeing a tremendous amount of investment going into hospitals, into clinics, into more usage of various pharmaceuticals and so on. And that's really helping the economy grow, and it's really creating a tremendous number of jobs. To that end, there are PLI schemes that are focused on healthcare, for example, in APIs and medical devices. So that's helping in manufacturing. And in addition to that, of course, the Ayushman Bharat and other medical insurance schemes that are providing people the confidence that if they need to be treated, they will be treated for up to 5 lakh rupees per family. So that kind of healthcare underwriting by the government in terms of treatment support really gives confidence to entrepreneurs, to medical companies, healthcare companies to go out and put investments in the ground, to hire people because the government is there to pay for it as well. So these are all ways in which we are spurring on the healthcare sector and making the healthcare sector an ever larger and more important part of the economy.
Sure. Sure, and the expectations are immense, and several sectors are hoping for some kind of relief, for some kind of regulation, as would the cryptocurrency sector go too. And before I let you go, I want to ask you one last question. As far as cryptocurrency is concerned, digital assets are concerned, they've been a subject of great debate, especially in the recent past. But so far, the government seems to be wary of taking a firm decision. All that we saw was taxation on gains from cryptocurrency that came into the budget last year. Now, this year around, the sector has great hopes as far as perhaps regulations is concerned, or even a rationalization of that 30% tax that was levied. Do you think it's something that is on the finance minister's mind?
We've taken many proactive steps to really spur these crypto assets and the underlying technologies such as the blockchain technology. Many positive steps have been taken. The RBI is putting out a central bank digital currency. We are continuing to support blockchain technology and smart contract technology, which is what really enables crypto assets of many kinds. And as far as crypto assets themselves are concerned, we now have very clear taxation policies for that. And we are also awaiting progress at a global level on crypto assets, where there will be global regulations and global standards getting created with respect to crypto assets, so that it's clear exactly how the global financial system is going to deal with crypto assets. So we have to wait for that global consensus, for those global regulations to develop as well. But all along, the government has been saying, and quite correctly so, that there is no underlying store of value that is attached to these crypto assets, that they're extremely speculative. And because they're so speculative, there's a risk of, very wild, abrupt, volatile swings in value, which is in fact what has been demonstrated, number one. Number two, that the anonymous nature of some of these transactions also makes it open for illicit activities of many kinds, such as smuggling, terrorism, a crime of many kinds, and so on. And therefore, we have to take a very vigilant and watchful view on how these crypto assets are evolving, which is exactly what we've done. And that has helped our people considerably, because we have been able to avoid the kinds of loss of value and the kind of rapid sort of declines in value for people in their accounts, and outright fraud and deception that we've also seen in this industry, as you often see in speculative industries. So by being prudent and thoughtful about crypto asset regulation, we have been able to look after the interests of the public.
Right, so it is a wait and watch as far as cryptocurrency is concerned, at least in this budget. But the hopes are high from every sector, as there are every single year. What really is on the mind of the finance minister, we'll find out in a few days from now when the budget is presented. But Jayant Sinha, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. Now, you heard the government's view, most of which coincides with what the industry wants and hopes as well. A robust economy and stable growth rate helps the industry and India Inc. as well. Now, the finance minister holds consultations with many stakeholders in the run-up to the budget every single year. Industry representatives too put forth their demands and expectations in these pre-budget meetings. What exactly are their demands and what they are hoping for? We'll speak to the founder and the executive chairperson of Biocon Limited. Look at this report though. Founder and Executive Chairperson of Biocon Limited, Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, joins us live on this broadcast. Thank you so much for speaking with us, Ms. Shaw, here. And let me start by asking you the obvious. What are your expectations personally and, of course, as far as India Inc. goes from this budget?
Well, I think, we are all just recovering from the pandemic, and I think everyone's looking towards a revival of growth. And I think India is very well poised, given the geopolitical dynamics that we have today, that India is in a very unique position to actually be optimistic about growth. As far as I'm concerned, I'm also very optimistic that we can actually deliver on that 6.5 to 7% growth that is being forecast for India. Because I think most of the headwinds that other countries are facing are not really affecting us in that serious way. However, I also believe that India does need to do a lot in terms of pursuing value-added growth. And in that, I have always been a believer that research and innovation are going to drive that long-term value-added premium growth that has always evaded us. So I just think that I expect this particular budget to focus on research, in a very strong way. I think our Prime Minister has very clearly articulated at the Science Congress that he would like India to really be known for research and innovation. And I think from what I gather, I think the government is quite serious about now focusing on how do we really get research kick-started. Whether you call it, what incentives or enablers, whatever you might want to call it, I do expect some announcements of enabling research as good positive outcome from this budget.
Sure, but like you said, India is well poised as far as some of its counterparts are concerned because the headwinds that we are seeing globally that may not affect India as much as they are affecting several other developed economies. But some repercussions, some after effects could be felt. Job creation is something that is extremely crucial because we're seeing several companies, several corporate bigwigs that are laying off people across the globe. How do you think this budget can cushion that particular blow, both at an individual level and as well from the industry point of view?
Yeah, so I think you're right. I mean, I think there are, couple of challenges that we have to address. One is, of course, the fact that the job market is in the sort of the skilled areas are beginning to show some kind of, contraction. And that is a bit of a worry. Of course, it's a benefit to IT companies because, they have been facing very high attrition. And of course, you're going to see a slowing down of the startup frenzy that we've been seeing in the last 2 years. And they were the ones who were really sort of, responsible for the attrition we saw in many of the tech sectors. So I think from that point of view, it's I don't think you're going to see jobs disappearing, but you're going to see jobs shifting is what I feel. On the other hand, I believe that, yes, there are a large number of small businesses which are affected. And I think people are going to expect some tax incentives or tax benefits that can help them overcome this very difficult time. So let's see what the finance minister has to offer. I think the rupee also is at an all-time low, which is very good for exports. But it is going to affect our current, account deficit because of the, the kind of, the import increments in import that is going to happen as a result. There is also a worry that China opening up might see oil breach the $100 mark again. There is also a worry that interest rates will also go up. So all in all, there are these kind of mounting fiscal pressures, which I think we will have to address, both, as a country and as a global economy. So I think there's a lot to be done, but I'm sure the ministry is well aware of all these intricate and sort of related challenges. And let's see what is held in store. But having said that, I think exports have a good kind of tailwind being provided by a weak rupee. But on the other hand, I think we do have challenges of balancing our account.
Right. Right now, many within the industry, Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, also want a uniform corporate tax because at the moment we have for different sectors, different tax limits. Many believe that should be rationalized. There should be one tax for everyone and that should be pegged at 15%. Do you agree?
I agree with that because I think the Indian industry does need a fillip. And I think we do need to make sure that our corporate tax rates are very competitive globally, because we do need to attract investment. We do need to be competitive. And we really don't want companies to offshore their businesses because of more attractive corporate tax rates in other regions. So I think a corporate tax rate of 15 to 20% would really augur very well for the country. Right now, it's kind of only restricted to greenfields kind of projects, which I really don't think is going to solve the problem, because it's a bit of a catch-22 where, there's not enough money to sort of put into new capital. And I think we do need to sort of upgrade and expand our existing investments. We do need a better payback on our existing investments. I do believe tax rates of, at the levels at which we are encountering today are not competitive enough. And I think I fully accept that, a flat tax rate of anywhere between 15 to 20% would augur well for the industry.
Sure. Whether the finance minister actually does it or not, we'll find out in a few days. But Ms. Shaw, you recently said that Karnataka has the potential of delivering $1 trillion economy individually by 2040. Now, it is also a state that goes to elections this year. Every time we have elections around the corner right after the budget, many people believe that it's going to be a populist budget. There are going to be those states that get a lion's share, perhaps as far as allocation is concerned. Do you think that this budget would look at poll-bound states like Karnataka, and that there are these specific demands that the state has made, those would be met?
Well, I think Karnataka, and particularly Bangalore, which is really Karnataka's growth engine, really needs huge investments in infrastructure. And I think that's where I think we really are wanting. I think we need tremendous investments in a city like Bangalore, which is really a very international city and a city of the future, where we need to make it much smarter, much more robust in terms of its infrastructure. And, these investments have been wanting for a long, long time. I mean, even the, suburban railway project is yet to take off in the right way. We've got these massive metro projects which have to be delivered on time. As you know, our road networks are woefully short of where they should be. I'm glad that the government has finally announced the BMLTA, or the integrated mobility land transport authority. So I think this is an important city, an important state, not just because of the elections, but really for the economic well-being of the country. So I think there is a huge investment need in terms of infrastructure. And I hope the government really focuses on Karnataka for that reason.
We'll wait and watch, of course, if Karnataka does get the lion's share, or any of those poll-bound states do get the lion's share this time around. But Ms. Shaw, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. With that, it's a wrap from me on this edition. Thank you so much for tuning in.